Lead Petersburg, would you like to move your bill?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to move 4350, and I also have an amendment, A1, which is kind of cleaning up some of the discussions and stuff we've had in the Senate as well, and to try to, nothing of that amendment is major, but it does clarify a few other things. So I'd like to move that as well.
Okay, and that amendment is
A1.
coded A1. Is there discussion of the A1? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the bill is now amended as the author intends us to consider it. Lead Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For a lot of us, I think this may be the most fun thing we're going to talk with and deal with today, because, and if I had the Jetsons soundtrack, I'd play that as well, because we are talking about flying cars, but in reality, just to kind of clarify it, this is actually about an aircraft that can drive on the roads, okay? So a lot of people were concerned that, hey, we're talking about changing a lot of things aerodynamically and all that stuff. No, we're not dealing with the airplane side of it at all. This is simply about something. And I would like to, if I can get this going here, I have a video as well. You do have something in your packet, but just something to try to get it here. Let's see. Where's my mouse? Oh, there it is.
Travel has become extremely stressful, with delays being the norm rather than the exception. But what if we could create a new way to travel? Something that could make it fun again and give us the freedom to travel on our own terms. Something that could drive or fly, so we are never stopped. Maybe something like this.
So again, it gives you kind of a feel for the opportunity for those that have additional money. It's something that's not cheap, but can you imagine going into your garage, getting in a vehicle, drive to the airport, because you still have to land and take off on a runway, take off and go 200, 300, 400 miles away, fold it back up, drive around whatever event that you wanted to go to, and then fly back home and park it back in your garage. That's quite a change from what we're thinking currently. And so this legislation is saying, and I'd like to read one of the people that is the legal analyst for Samson Sky, which is what you just saw, says about this. Roadable aircraft, what is it? Because it has two distinct modes of transportation, roadable aircraft are subject in two classifications, and with those comes double the compliance requirements, double the fees, double the paperwork, etc. Knowing that multi-classification vehicles are around the corner, he started researching, what was needed, and came up with this bill. In addition, as he goes on to say, in addition to the legislation, they are held to the FAA requirements because it is an airplane, and so inspection modes and all that stuff are there. But if these vehicles, and as he said in other discussions that I had with him, there are multiple companies out there that are looking at providing and are going through the inspections and the testing and everything that the FAA requires, as they become more and more available, if they're going to be on our roads, we need to figure out how are we going to register them, license them, insure them? How are we going to make sure that they're safe on the road as well? And so this bill actually just starts that process to the point where we can figure out when a police officer needs to stop somebody, or if they're in a car accident or whatever, heaven forbid, that they would have the information available for them to know what's going on. Now, just to be clear, you still have to have a pilot's license. You still have to do all inspection fees for the airplane itself. Kind of nice thing about this particular aircraft that can drive on roads is that it uses regular premium fuel. It doesn't require airplane fuel, so there's no lead in it as well. So that's a positive. And it has about 11,000 foot ceiling, and I think they could, in the air, depending on circumstances, in excess of 150 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour, anywhere from 200, 300, 400 mile range. So it has some flexibility. But what we're talking about here in this committee is about what we do when they're on the roads. There is one thing that we're continually looking at, is whether or not this should be classified as a motorcycle or an auto cycle. We still need to refer to that. We're unsure about what other companies might be using for instrumentation and so forth. But otherwise, this is really something for us to do. This company hopes to have the first off the assembly line in 2025. So it's coming close. They claim that they have about 2,500 people lined up to purchase these already. And so it's going to be an interesting call. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will leave it up to you for discussions and having a time to talk about it. Oh, by the way, there's in your handbook, there's some more with some pictures too in your packet there. So.
Thank you, Lead Petersburg. Representative Kraft is first on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Petersburg. So I just want to understand some things. What does doing this, like, why do we need to do this now? If we didn't do what you're suggesting, why now when there's, so why do we need to do this?
If I have two reasons for doing it now. One is it's going to take a while for other states to get involved with it too, and this allows us to kind of be the lead on determining how to do that. And it also allows everybody to have a little bit more time to vet it, because if the first one rolls off the assembly line in 25, it could be here in Minnesota. And then we hope that we would have that information on how to register it there, because otherwise it would have to sit on the field and the airports until it can be, because it's going to be driving on the roads. And so this gives us an opportunity. I mean, we're at 24 already. So as you know, most things take a little bit of time to get in place. So it's an opportunity for us just to stay ahead of it. But if we don't do it, you're absolutely right. Nothing's going to fall apart or anything, but we'll have to then deal with it next year.
Representative Kraft.
Mr. So does this make it easier for these to be on our roads?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will say I appreciate that this looks cool. Okay. But I think you also said these use automobile fuel as a plus. I mean, I have all kinds of questions about this cool-looking technology around climate change impacts of it. Also, this is not land use impacts of this, right? This is not about, as you indicated, this is not something for all but the wealthiest among us. It can also facilitate people living further and further away, exacerbating sprawl issues. If these are based on automobile fuel, are they subject to fuel economy standards? So it said, looks cool, but I think there's a whole host of questions before we get to a point of saying we should make it easier for these to be on our roads. So I appreciate you kind of laying this out there, but I have some, just concerns about this new class of thing and the impacts that it will have. So, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just clarify a little bit, remembering that everything takes a little bit of time to move forward, and I think your questions and your concerns are valid. Remembering that right now, almost all aircraft require aircraft fuel, which is leaded for airplanes of this type. This is going to reduce that. It's not a vehicle that you're going to be driving on a regular basis from home. It's really an opportunity for you to be able to drive to the airport, fly to another location, and then maybe drive around there a little bit, but it's not going to be used as a main source of transportation, which has some limiting factor on regards to that. But in either case, whether or not all the things that you talk about are important, they are still going to be sold. And they still are going to be here and available, and people are going to want to be able to drive them home to their houses. So how do we deal with that in the meantime? If we want to talk about other requirements for them, I think that's valid in order to do that. But this bill really deals with the licensing and registration on the ground. It doesn't deal with the environmental impacts per se.
Representative Kraft.
Yeah, Mr. Leader. So I appreciate that. I'm just pointing out that we're taking a step here, that there's a broader discussion. And so I'm interested in that broader discussion as opposed to a step that might lead us down a path that precludes some of that broader discussion.
Representative Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering for people with kids, are they going to make a minivan version of this?
You know, I'm sure that will be up to development, as with all technology and growth. It is. Right now, it's considered a two-seater with luggage with that. But just as we start with many things, it's going to be impactful on that. Because I'm sure it's not like you could put them on a top carrier or something, right?
Might mess with aerodynamics.
Yes, exactly. But it is interesting, and you know, the cost figure is a little bit hefty at 150 to 200,000. But when you consider the fact that four-wheel drive pickup that a lot of people are getting, and other cars, they're pushing 100 grand already, and then on top of that, you now have an airplane also. So it is going to be limited. You know, it's not going to be for everybody. It's not going to have a lot of numbers, but what do we do with them once they're on the road here in the state? So.
Representative West. Oh, did you have a follow-up?
I just wanted to say that $200,000 sounds like a cheap airplane.
It is.
Representative West.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can say I, for one, will not stand in between my constituents and the future of flying cars. I mean, how long have people been waiting for this? This has been a beautiful concept. Just a couple things. As Representative Petersburg said, it's not going to be widely adopted, so climate impacts, I don't think, are hugely to be concerned with. And we want our policy to be encouraging innovation, not forcing innovation to wait for our laws to catch up with it. And also saying it's for the wealthiest among us. Well, horses were for the wealthiest among us back in the day. The Model T was for the wealthiest among us back in the day. And those technologies became widely adopted by the broader public, but it did start being very expensive. So I don't think we should stand in the way of innovation. I think this is how we do get to the future of flying cars, which sounds awesome to me. And this is what our constituents have been dreaming of for many, many years. So thank you for bringing this bill, Representative Petersburg. This is definitely probably the coolest bill we're going to have in this committee.
Okay, Representative Brandt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two questions I have. Will operators of this vehicle have to be required to produce a flight plan, takeoff and landing?
And Mr. Chair, I don't know that, but they have to follow whatever a normal airplane would require. This has about 12,000 foot ceiling in which it can fly. That's different compared to what other airplanes do, but if a regular airplane were to require a flight plan for that area, this would as well. It doesn't change any of the requirements of an airplane at all. And so I can't give you that answer completely at this time, but I could find out for you. My guess is almost everybody has to fill out a flight plan, so I'm guessing yes, that they do. I think that could be done online now, so.
Okay. Then I have, Mr. Chair. Another question I have, thank you, Mr. Chair. Another question I have is power lines, cities, that sort of thing. I mean, when we're talking about maybe landing in condensed areas where there's lots of traffic versus out in the country, there are power lines that sometimes overhang the road. Are we going to have to do something to mark our power lines better so that way these planes can land in the open spaces out in the middle of in the country? Are we going to try to restrict it from landing down in Main Street in St. Peter, places like that? I mean, what can we say about that?
Okay, so that, thank you for that clarification, because we need to clarify this. This does not change where they have to take off from. It has to be from a licensed airport. You can't land on the road. And specifically in the bill, that's against the law to do that. You just can't unless it's emergency situations, which airplanes can as well. So you have to drive to a local, which can be a very small airport, close by to all of us, land and take off, because I think this one here requires about 1,100 feet in order to take off. So it's something that can't be done on the roads. So just understand that when it's on the roads, it's going to have to be compacted back into roadable design. So you don't have to worry about lines or any of that other stuff because they can't take off from there.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Elkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One observation I would make is that at this scale of vehicle, you could easily see electric versions. Electric airplanes for short-haul travel is already a thing. So they don't necessarily have to be powered by gasoline. And I think this is a fascinating discussion to be having. And I think, I don't know, Representative Petersburg, is this the first bill in the country as far as you're aware?
No, out on the East Coast. Let's see. The information is here. There's another state that already has passed this, and it's out on the East Coast. And where's my information? New Hampshire has already passed this bill as well, and it's getting started.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, this is the kind of discussion that would be fascinating to have at the NCSL level. So I'm very happy that Representative Petersburg has brought this forward to begin the discussion.
Okay. Last on our list is Representative Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Petersburg, for bringing this bill. This has been great conversation. I think we haven't talked really about the efficiency of business travel. So I purchased a Cessna 140 with 4 other people and learned how to fly. And it was something we all wanted to learn how to fly. It was great. And so we all learned how to fly. And with business travel, though, this completely changes the game plan. If you have a pilot or 2 in your business and you want to be efficient at doing business, you can. And business travel versus hopping in a jet, I like my chances at climate change with this one. As far as being expensive, I think you weigh all that out, especially from a business standpoint, especially the ability to spread it over a number of different people. This is a great option. With regard to flight plans and being a pilot, pilots are required to do those things. And so if they're required to be a pilot, they're required to do those things. That's just the way I look at that. And I'm really anxious to have that climate change discussion. I think that'd be great. I think we really need to look at the core of it. I think we need to make sure we ask why. We always get the feeling that we all know this is true. But I think that's important to do. So I appreciate Representative Kraft for bringing that up. That's all I have, but thank you. Great bill. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other discussion? Lead Petersburg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know that we're moving this to lay it over, but I want to say that, again, as we talk about, this is one of the first exciting, actually, changes in transportation modes that we've had in years. Otherwise, we've just kind of playing around with the existing travel and so forth. And as it's in its infancy, there is so much more potential as you start looking at it. I mean, we're talking about now automated cars. It could very well be into the future in which this particular piece of equipment could be automated. And what more easy to automate into the air than it is on the ground even. And so, and energy-wise, hydrogen power, it could also be electric power. All those things are going to be developed as we move forward. So this is now in the infancy of what could be the largest change in transportation infrastructure for a long time and moving it around. So this is just an opportunity, though, for us to make sure that once they are here and they're driving around in our streets, that we make sure that we have all of our I's dotted and T's crossed in regards to registration and so on. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Lead Petersburg. I'll just go on record as a skeptic. I appreciate your bringing this forward and discussing it, and of course respect you and your interests. But you know, we have a lot of technology already available to us in the transportation realm and particularly the climate realm. You know, obviously, you know, the future's happening, but yet the automated flying vehicles was a little bit frightening for me. You know, we haven't really made a ton of progress. I was always a bit skeptical also of the automated vehicle revolution. You know, I think 10 years ago, everyone thought we'd all be driving automated vehicles. So I hope we're driving the most energy efficient, clean vehicles we possibly can, that we're adopting alternatives to giving people options to not drive cars at all. And I thought Representative Kraft made a very good point about land use. And so those are, I think, 3 areas in which we can focus. But I really appreciate, again, your interest in this. And, you know, we'll continue to monitor it as it potentially moves forward. And it sounds like there's just one company at this point. I haven't heard from GM or others, but we'll see. And I'm glad the committee had some good questions for you. And if you have any final comments, we'll lay over House File 4350.
If I could just say, we know that the information here all talks about another company in Europe that uses a helicopter-style program, that they're not quite as far in the testing. And according to this guy, Mr. Busfield, there are at least 4 other companies in the United States that are in the process of getting inspections and testing done. So they are going to be around in probably limited ones. And all of your comments are valid. We do have to worry about that. Land use, it doesn't really change anything because it's going from your garage to your garage again. So whatever you can do with that, you can always change land use as well. So that's my thought, and thank you for laying it over.
Yeah, and thanks again. And I think this does also raise questions about aviation and our understaffed air traffic control system, many issues that I think are before us. But again, appreciate you requested a hearing, and we appreciate your bringing this forward. And with that, this bill is laid over. House File 4350.